Good evening. This is Cece Schatz, and I'm so glad to have you with us. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And I want to really thank you for listening to us because we've moved to another time slot. We've kind of bumped it up here a little bit. And I know that you guys are starting to get a little bit confused as to what time I'm going to be on. And so I am starting the show at 7 o'clock. So that way it gives us a little bit more time to be able to have the shows because we hate to rush the great information that we are able to share with you all. So if you all don't know me, again, my name is Cece Schatz, and I am the doyenne of relationship building. I take individuals from divorce recovery through to really living their best lives. And so we talk about the transition of dating, adjusting yourself to that new single life, raising your vibration. So hopefully we'll meet the one that you would love to be with, hopefully for the rest of your life. So, and if you guys would please like our Facebook pages, we would really appreciate that. You can connect with me there. You can also join me on our website, which is Going Solo Media, and also with Going Solo Network, which has all my different groups on it. You're welcome to join us on some activities and have some fun and kind of connect a little bit further. But we're going to get right to our show tonight because I'm very, very excited about it. I have Chris Benton, and Chris Benton is the author of BrokenTogether.com. And I'll have to find out a little bit more about this, but he's really into kind of helping keeping the glue together on those marriages and on those relationships. I know we're looking at the world today a little bit differently, relationships a little bit different, but when it comes right down to the core of it, we all have to build relationships, and we're all trying to be able to get forward in our lives and move forward in a very healthy way. And so I'm hoping Chris is going to shed some light on that for us. That would be awesome. So I'm bringing you forward here. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
It is great having you. I know you and I have talked off and on through Facebook a great deal, and you and your lovely wife. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because you have a very interesting journey. You've had some struggles in your life, and I'd like to be able to bring that forward to the audience because I want them to understand that, even though we have these adversities in our lives, we're able to pick ourselves up and move forward into living our best life. So share with us a little bit about your journey and what you're doing and writing this book and all of that.
Okay, well, first, it's BrokenTogetherBook.com.
Okay.
But yeah, I went through 19 years of addictions, and I actually destroyed my first marriage through those addictions. So I'm in my second marriage right now, and I almost destroyed it because of those addictions. And really, we have a fairy tale beginning. Most people kind of don't believe it because we actually met online back in February of 2002, February 2nd, 2002. And to be honest, back then was really taboo. I mean, nobody met online. And I remember I really felt like God was telling me my wife was online. When you're single, you're trying to look at every sign you can get. And I really felt like God told me he was going to lead me to her. And I lost friends over that. I mean, I believed with everything in my heart that was the case. And remember, I was going through all these addictions too. So you have all that. So I could have been just thinking all this, but God still speaks to you even when you're not living the way he would want. And I think that's where some people go wrong, is they think you got to be perfect for God to speak to you. It's not true. Because he spoke to me. And so I found this little site online. It was a Christian site. And I'm asking God, well, how will I know if I find the one that he wants me with? Because I already went through one marriage. I didn't want to mess up this. And I felt like he was telling me that whatever it is, that everybody will be the same except one person. It'll be night and day. And I probably chatted with 200-300 people in about a 5-month span through this website. and I just didn't feel anything. I mean, I think I was chatting with a couple people here and there, and nothing clicked. And you know, I had a few checklists like everybody else does, but nothing seemed to click. And I remember February 2nd of '02 come along, and I was bored to death. I was online, and I really thought to myself, I never chat with people that didn't have pictures. I always felt back then, because you know, back then they always had this horror stories of meeting online. So, which of course
Yeah,
they're still like that. But, and like I always try to tell people, I think we met when even the bad people didn't understand. So we were probably safer back then.
Yeah.
But I remember I'm going through these profiles. I was like, okay, I've already chatted with that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. And I was like, well, then I seen one that was online at the particular time, and she didn't have a picture. And I was like, well, I'm gonna do it anyway. For some reason, I felt led. I said hi to her, and I find out later that she was only on there deleting a message. She was actually logging off when my hi went through. I mean, that's how thin of a line that we hit it off so much that we chatted for the first time on February 2nd. February 4th, we've talked on the phone for the first time, and she's in Kentucky. I was in Georgia. So we had no way to meet. February 18th, we actually set a wedding date. Not met in person. We've seen pictures, but not met in person. We talked every day on the phone. So March 4th, we met in person. And I'm telling you all this because it's a fairy tale start, but it didn't stay that way for a little while, because that's when my addictions will come in, which I'll get to. But you know, we married October 5th of '02, which is the date we set, because people thought we were crazy. I mean, we spent 26 days face to face. The rest of the time was on the phone. And we really got to know each other. And I told her what happened with my first marriage. I explained everything. And I think that's a key when you start to date is, you know, one of the reasons I'm writing a book, Broken Together, that we're writing, is because when two people start dating, they're both broken. I mean, there's no way around it. Everybody's went through relationship stuff. So by explaining to each other what you've went through, then it helps the person you're dating understand you better, because sometimes your spouse eventually can step on your toes and they don't even know it, but they're stepping on them because of a past experience you got. Because my whole book, Broken Together, is about healing your marriage through your past, because I believe that most communication problems, whether you're dating or whether you're married, and really it's with relationships in general, it could be friendships, most communication problems have nothing to do with the current circumstances. They have everything to do with your past experiences, because I'm seeing past through my eyes, she's seeing past through her eyes. So when we come together, what she sees I don't see, and vice versa. So that causes problems in the marriage until you learn each other's past and you start to learn a little bit more, where you get deeper into it. But we end up getting married on October 5th. 6 months after we married, my mom passed away, and I was a mama's boy. And I've been through years of addiction. When I say 19 years of addictions, I'd be going through a stint of all the time, and then maybe a month or two of almost nothing. So it's basically, it was, if my life was going just mediocre, I'd drink all the time. If it was going great, I wouldn't drink as much. But it was still an all the time battle that I fought for year after year after year. So when my mom passed away, I went to what I knew, the drugs and alcohol. And she knew a little bit of my past on that, but she didn't know how deep it went, because again, I went deeper this point than I ever have in the past, because of, again, my mom passed away and I didn't understand how to handle it. But I do remember at the funeral, before my addictions really came back, at the funeral, this is how I really know God brought us together, which I already knew that. But my grandma came up to us at the funeral and told us, or Sandy, matter of fact, that thanking her for being part of the life, because she said that my mom in the last 6 months said she's the happiest she's ever been. So I truly believe we had to move the way we did to bring that kind of joy to the last 6 months of my mom's life. Really believe that. But all of a sudden I started going downhill, and she started seeing signs that I already told her of what destroyed my first marriage. And on some things she put an ultimatum on that story, but the but the drugs and alcohol, she kind of didn't, because she understood that was still a disease, or whatever people want to call it. Addictions is tough. And so she went, I guess, about 4.5 years from that point, year after year, never nagged me. And I know some people are going to hate me say this, never put me down. She was always my cheerleader. She always tried to lift me up, even through the mess. I've had a lot of people tell me that she allowed me to walk over her. But what they don't understand, and this is why I really believe God brought us together, is she actually allowed me to experience God's love through her. Big difference, because I never experienced the pure love that she had. Because again, she never nagged, she never did any of that. And I'm not saying that if you're in an addictive relationship that you shouldn't leave. I never cheated and I never hit her, so she would have left under those circumstances. But I did cross some lines that I shouldn't have, that I'm definitely not proud of. And year after year, she would pray and cry many nights. And December 26, 2007, I remember waking up that morning. I was drunk for the first time on Christmas Day ever, and I really felt guilty. I remember getting up that morning and pleading with God to please. I didn't ask God to help me quit drinking. I asked him to take the desire away. I really believed that it was either my life needs to go or this desire needs to go. One of the two was going to happen. I was at the edge of, I really think that if we went too much longer, I would have done something really horrible to me, because I knew she deserved better, but I didn't feel like I could beat it. And I needed God. This is where I really leaned into God. And I remember I felt like he spoke to me and said, give him 30 days. And now I'm really thinking, now, okay, I'm going crazy. If I told people this back then, I know they would think I was crazy. God telling me, and then I'm thinking, well, you're God. Why would you need 30 days? See, what I didn't know then that I know now is when you look through the Bible and you look at every miracle story, every story started with some type of obedience. God said, the person obeyed, the miracle came. Always that. There was no exceptions that I can see. I mean, so what I know now is that 30 days was my obedience for my miracle. And I fought it hard. And I sat there and I really believed that God spoke this to me. And I remember we sitting there about the 25, 26 day mark. And that's the last time I remember any desire. And although this was great for our marriage to a degree, we didn't start really connecting for about 2 years later. It was around 2010. We ended up going back to a church and all that. And I remember, because I was starting to grow on the inside, God was really starting to finally work on me, that I pulled Sandy aside and I told her, okay, I know I did a lot of bad stuff. I was like, because I knew at this point that she helped me heal. That was God's purpose for her into our marriage. She helped me heal, because without her pure heart, I don't think I'd ever healed. Well, because of the damage I did, it was my turn to help her heal. So I sat her down and says, okay, tell me everything I put you through. Says, I will zip it. I won't mock it. I won't justify it. Just tell me everything. Now, I'll be honest. An hour in, I was wondering if I regretting that, because she told me everything. There were things that she said, and I'm like, are you sure? And I'm like, I was freaking out to some of the stuff that she had to go through in those beginning years. But that really was the start of our healing. And the book didn't come along then. And I really believe that when God first told me that he was healing me, he also gave me that we're going to have a marriage ministry one day. And I kind of laughed that one off. I believed he would heal me, but I didn't believe we'd ever have it. I mean, I had one marriage got gone. This one was in the dumpster because of me. There's no way. 2010 came along. We started finally growing together. We started going to church all the time. We started watching all these marriage seminars online. Thank God for the internet now. You couldn't do all that. And thank God for Right Now Media, because if you got a church that subscribes to that, you have access to 10,000 Bible studies now of all different categories. I love it. So we spend, especially those first years, we spent 5 to 7 to 10, maybe even 20 hours sometimes a week just watching, listening, and just really trying to grow together. And in 2010 is when we got the first word of inspired marriage, which is our marriage ministry that we're trying to work on. And I'll be honest, I did not expect it to take this long. I'm like, okay, then he gave me the name, he gave me the vision, let's run. It's just now starting to go. And that was in 2010. So sometimes I have to keep leaning on Galatians 6:9. Do not get weary in doing good, for in due season you'll reap. Because I have to be honest with you. There's sometimes I question whether we're supposed to do this. And then every time I question it, somebody will private message me talking about something that I've said on Facebook has helped their marriage. I'm like, well, okay, that gets me on a little bit further. But then I have to keep remembering David's story. God gave David the vision of king. And it wasn't 15 years later before he was living in that vision. He gave Joseph the vision of saving his place. And it was and him ruling over everybody. And it was like 20 years. Now, granted, I'm sitting here like, please don't make it 15. But I get it.
But, I think, and I can relate to that because I know when I first started doing, what I do, and, I realize now it's about the journey. And I've learned, as I've continued on, and I've grown, within myself and being able to help others. So, I kind of understand that you think, okay, you got an idea and you're thinking, okay, roll with it. I did the same thing, but it was a very slow roll, very slow. But it's, I can see for me, and I know that for you, that will come about. Your dreams and goals and visions will come about because they're supposed to. It's just, it's in the timing, it's all when we're supposed to do that. I don't know why my light, it seems like when I'm on here, my light kind of blinks or something. I don't know what it is about it, but maybe I'm being told, go ahead, do it. But it is, and I know that we're talking about relationships and everything, and it's so important. But I wanted to do a show about walking in my faith because I believe, just as you do, I believe that I've been guided, into doing what I'm doing, where I'm going. And so sometimes I ask myself, what the heck, I could be going to bed, I could be watching TV, I could be doing a whole lot of other things, but instead I keep working on this thing that I'm driven to do.
And there is a point that things change. Like up until August of this year, we've had 0 doors open. And we're talking year after year after year. 0. I've had people tell me, if you go that long, it just means that's not God's calling on your life. And I'm glad I did not listen. I mean, we went year. And then August came, and all of a sudden, a door opened, and I spoke somewhere. And then another door opened, I spoke. Another door. And I'm talking right now, since August, I think about 8 different doors of me speaking, including here, has opened up. And Saturday, we're going down to Jacksonville because I'm supposed to speak and tell our story at an event called He Broke Me to Bless Me. I mean, that fits like we're perfect with our story. But again, doors keep opening up all of a sudden. And up until August, nothing. And I'm sitting here like, I keep I'll pinch Sandy sometimes. Is this real? Is this really happening? Because, and most of the doors that have opened up, I'm like trying to open doors. And then somebody contacts me. I actually had a guy from a show called Married Men Don't Talk show. It's kind of a flip on what they do, but but Married Men Don't Talk. And he found me because about a few months on our blog, I wrote, I really love the song Reckless Love. And I got to thinking, that's really what marriage needs to be. A reckless kind. I love that, you know what, you are reckless, but you gotta have the right person. If you're reckless in it, the wrong person, it can destroy you. And I did that, and apparently he put in, because since he was going to do a show one of the nights called Reckless Love, he put in Reckless Love in Google, and I popped up, and he read my article about about having a reckless love in marriage, and he contacted me. Thank God he was persistent, because he contacted me through several social media, and I didn't respond back. That don't normally all happen. I don't know what was going on with me at that particular time, but that never happens. And next thing I know, he contacts me finally through Facebook instead of Twitter. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll come on your show. But again, that was a door that opened up. Then just recently, I just got approved to write for the Patheos blog website. And it's a big spiritual thing with all different religions and all that, and all different beliefs. But I'm proud of that. So because I've always believed that one day we're going to get paid and live on writing and speaking through our marriage ministry. And it's like these little doors keep opening up. And like I said, before August, nothing was opening up. I mean, every year I'm like, well, maybe this is the year. Every December, I'm like, 2015, it's different. 2016, it's different.
I know. And you know what? You do have to have faith. You absolutely do have to have faith. And so let's talk a little bit about, because I really liked what you had said at the beginning about, our communication. We bring our past into our relationships. And I know even myself, I find that, as I'm moving through developing new relationships, relationship building, something will happen to me. It will trigger me, and I'll just shut down, or I'll say, okay. But I am starting to, set my boundaries now a little bit more. When someone doesn't treat me the way they should, I end it and say, move on and go forward. But let's talk a little bit about building a relationship when you do have stuff. You do have a lot of hurt and pain because you have been, mistreated somewhat. How would you say that you could move forward with that?
A lot of reading. I would say that when couples, because I post this a lot on Facebook, this particular quote that I came up with, I was like, more arguments in marriage are caused from past pain than it is from their current circumstances. And you got all these gurus out there always talking about we communicate through our personality. I actually disagree with that. Now, I Broken Together is going to buck a lot of, as they say, truths. What I think personalities do is that they're a mask. And maybe you got someone that's been hurt all their life. So guess what? Their personality is to shut it down. I mean, you got someone, go ask any comedian you know. They're some of the most bad past you will find. They cover their past and their pain up through comedy. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying you got to know this. You got to know that this is a personality that you created because of your past pain. And I think that's where people go wrong. They get married, they start bumping heads, and they're like, for instance, great analogy. You got a woman who, let's say that her dad left the house when she was young. Then first boyfriend end up using her and abusing her. Then she gets married, and then he leaves her for a younger woman or whatever. Then all of a sudden she finds this great guy, and they're really hitting it off. They have the first little small disagreement. He's like everybody else. He's going to leave me too. She just judged him based on her past experiences, even though he don't even know what he did wrong. Because coming from his family, things were a certain way. Coming from her background, things have been a certain way. So when he does something a certain way, she sees it as, oh, he's like everybody else. And that's happening in a lot of relationships. And again, I think the book Broken Together that we're writing, although it's coming at it from a marriage point of view, I think it would be good for singles and all that to have it, because I believe that when I mean, I could have just called it brokenness and just in general. But again, because of marriage ministry, my focus is marriage, and I want to be able to use that as the foundation.
Well, we do have people that come in through my divorce support that have kept their marriage together, with knowing and understanding that they're playing a part of it versus saying, oh, it's all the ex's fault. Well, that's not where we come from. We come from understanding the part you played in it. And with that, a couple people have gone back and they have, been able to keep their marriages together. We even had a husband and wife come in and want to talk to us, one time they came in. He said, I want her to come in here. And, because she's thinking about getting a divorce. So I want her to come. And so he came too, and came to a few meetings, and then he listened to our writing that we do on our board, and it helped them to be able to stay together. So it's about communication. It's about understanding. I was thinking too, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine about, and I can see this in myself, he's struggling with a relationship that he's having, and they're moving forward, in the relationship. They're going pretty well. And then she starts pulling back and starts kind of sabotaging it. And when he was talking about it, I thought the same thing about myself. Because so sometimes it's our worthiness. We don't feel like we're,
exactly. You feel like you're not enough.
Right. We're thinking, okay, we're not good enough or whatever. So, he will leave or he will do this. And so we start to sabotage it when we didn't have to do that.
Yeah. And self-sabotage really does come from past pain. People can say what they want. And I think we all have a degree of that. I don't think there's no person on earth that doesn't self-sabotage something within their life. It might not be their marriage, but it could be maybe their work, their career. But this whole internet stuff has changed marriages completely, and dating. And I'll be honest, I'm glad I met her when we did, because I don't know how it's got to be tough. It's got to be really tough. Because it's not that temptation shouldn't happen. Temptation's going to happen. Everybody's human. You're going to have temptation. And there's just so much bombarded. I mean, you've got, as soon as people find out you're in a relationship, and a good one, all of a sudden you've got people wanting to creep up on both sides. And it's so easy to do because they can just say hi in Facebook, private message. Because I remember Andy Stanley at North Point Church always said that most affairs happen over a cup of coffee. And that, I think most affairs now happen in a chat. I really believe that. And they're like, oh no, I can chat with my old ex-girlfriend and be okay, or my old ex-boyfriend, or this guy, this girl. I can keep it pure. Problem, it don't stay pure. As soon as you tell any intimate details in your relationship, it's over. You've already crossed that line. And it's going to destroy the relationship. That you got to have guardrails when you're dating, especially married. But there's got to be some type of guardrails within your life and marriage. And I think singles especially, because they need to guard that the wrong person don't come in, because they might accept this guy coming in, and let's say they think he's single, and then all of a sudden they find out, well, he's separated. Well, then they justify that. Well, he's separated. He's getting a divorce. Me and you both know that's not happening for the most part. I mean, I know a couple people that it started that way and it's worked, but I know thousands that started that way and it destroyed their life. Mm-hmm. And you just can't accept that. As a single, you're a woman of God. As a man, you're a man of God. You can't accept any type of impurity between the two people that could eventually sabotage your relationship down the road. You just can't. And it's hard in this day and time with technology the way it is. I love the technology, but I also hate the technology. It's a double-edged sword. And
well, I mean, I kind of agree with you, but then again, I don't, because I also think that people do have integrity. And there are ones that, for me, I have many male relationships. I talk to many people. Generally, it's because of giving advice or helping them get through, not advice, but coaching, helping them get through. But so it will take a very strong, pure man to be with me, because I deal with singles every day. And because if I would ever get married again, I don't plan on ending what I'm doing, because I love it. So it's really building that strong relationship. So I understand what you're saying when someone, contacts you out of the blue and you're married and but you have to set the boundaries to that. You have to be strong and set the boundaries, and then you have to have a relationship that is strong,
And here's something I also believe that, again, a lot of people don't believe this, but I believe when two people marry, God has a purpose for that marriage. And I'm not talking kids, because of course everybody says, oh, of course he does. I have kids. No, that's not the purpose. I believe that when two people come together, there's some purpose that God wants for that marriage. Like for us, it's marriage ministry. It may not be marriage ministry, but if you take the two people's passions and do a circle with them, wherever they meet, there's something in there that God probably has where you can become one through even careers. Like, so if you meet someone down the road, you may find that God's going to lead someone in your life that, if you're supposed to marry again down the road, that is going to complement what you're already doing with this whole podcast. So he's probably not going to send you somebody that's going to do just the opposite. He's probably going to send you somebody that can mold right on in with what you've already accomplished. And I think that's where people...
You're right. You're absolutely right with that, because I will share is that I think that I have had people in my life to learn things about myself and to learn things about situations, and to allow me to be strong, to say no, or to back up if I need to do that. And so I have had people come into my life where I've had to make decisions that, my heart didn't want me to do, but I knew that it would have been the right thing for me.
Because your call is important.
Right. And so these people are definitely they've been brought into my life, I think, for that reason. There's a reason for everything that we go through.
Yeah.
Journey, I don't really understand why we experience some of the things that we do, and unfortunately, some of the bad things too. But I think that no matter what happens to us, we can be uplifted and we can move forward. And
well, remember, even Paul said, "Why is it that I do what I know not to, and don't do what I know to do?" So even Paul struggled with that. It's a human thing, a human error, a flaw that we have.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, the book that you're writing. Can you give us a few hints that would help someone if they're out there struggling in a relationship?
Well, it's really going to be more of a communication book, but what I believe is before, because, you see a lot of pastors, they preach on, and I cringe when I hear this, but you've gotten pastors that's lowered the bar on marriage, and they talk about that passion will only last but so long, then it turns into a companion type love. I disagree. I don't think passion is... Now, will there be seasons in your marriage where the passion fades? Yes. But I don't think it's supposed to fade forever. And they've lowered the bar. But here's the problem. If you don't get through the brokenness, you can never bring the passion. So our whole ministry, Inspired Marriage, it's going to be about healing. Our purpose is to bring healing and passion back into marriages. Because if we can help you through Broken Together to help heal your heart, then we can teach what you need to do together to help bring the passion back. Because again, we can teach you all you want. We can tell you to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, all you want. If you still got that heart issue, this won't matter. That's why you see a lot of people, they'll say, well, you can tell that they're passionate about it together. The way they fight passionate. It's because they haven't healed their heart. If you focus on the passion only, you're going to fight passionately. You'll have passion. It'll just be in the wrong area. But if you focus on the healing of the heart and through figuring things out of the past, now you can bring passion back into it. And now you can have the healing plus the passion. Because when you look at the past, you know, everything that you've done has come up to this point, and we've all had pain, and you have to deal with that pain in a way. And you know, all these gurus tell you, forget your past and move on. That's the best way to repeat it. I don't know anybody that, oh, let's just push the past away and go forward. No, I don't know anybody that can literally do that without healing, without it repeating. And something that's helped me, and this is why I don't know if I've had anybody that actually took me up on this, but I believe that this will change anybody's life. If they're married, the couple should do this, and if you're single, you should do this. But you should sit down, think back to the very first moment you can remember of any pain, whether it's 10 years old, 8 years old, don't matter when, it's however far back, and start to write your story out. See, I did this because I knew my story was going to be in a book one day, but I learned something. It did something to me that I didn't realize it was going to do. This is why I don't care. You don't have to write a book. You should still do this. Set out to write your story from the moment your first pain happened all the way till the current day. Here's what'll happen. You'll be writing something, and you'll say, so that led to that, which led to that, which led to that, which led to that. And you'll have so many aha moments. And when I say write your story out, I'm not talking about just writing. I'm talking set a goal to write 50,000 words. Because people don't realize it. If you're writing your story, it's not hard to do 1,000 or 2,000 words a day, because when you get, it's your story. You know, it's not like writing a regular book, you know, where you have to think on, well, this and that. No, your story. When you start writing, you'll start remembering. And the reason I say 50,000 words is because if you don't set a limit of at least 50,000 words, you'll write the good and you'll write some bad, but you'll skip the ugly. You want it all. You want the good, the bad, and the ugly, because the ugly is where you're going to heal. That's where you're going to have, that led to that, which led to that. It'll be almost a snowball effect in your life when you do this. Now, you might say, but I know my story in my head. I know it's different when you put it on paper or on the computer, whatever. You know, it's just different. You start remembering things. Because I remember what I did. I think I took 30 days and I wrote 50,000 words on my story. And every day I had a couple aha moments as I was writing. And it really led to the Broken Together, because if I didn't do that, I had no intention of writing a book, Broken Together. But this made me realize, wow, my past controls who I am today. And people can, your past always controls who you are, because your past is a reflection of all your experiences into who you are today. I'm not saying you can't change who you are today, but you can't change who you are until you dig back into your past. So this is where I get a lot of flack, because people are like, no, I can't do.
You're so right. You're absolutely right. And I will share with you is that I was writing, I'm a co-author in a book called Dare to Be Authentic, Learning to Trust Yourself. And so I wrote a paragraph, and in that or chapter, and in that chapter, I was kind of stressing out having to write, because I'm not a big writer. And so I finally decided, okay, I woke up one morning and said, okay, this is it. I'm going to sit down and write. And it just came out. I mean, I was done in like a half an hour. It was just amazing, with hardly any changes. I mean, it was maybe a comma or something. I mean, it was just out there. But I wrote about being abused when I was little with my grandmother. And I realized at that time when I wrote about that, I realized that's why I feel like that I'm choosing the wrong guys, is because that's what I was familiar with.
Yeah.
You know, I was familiar with that kind of relationship. So, of course, when I was in a relationship with someone that wasn't treating me right, you know, and I'm not saying like hitting me or whatever, but wasn't treating me, I wasn't talking to me right, wasn't being kind and caring to me, it was familiar. Yeah. And then I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I really put that together. Yeah. And it really was an eye opener, and it really changed. It changed my life, and it helped me to see that I have to set very strong boundaries, and that when someone does do that to me, you know, mistreats me like that, it's no accident.
Exactly. And when you got that pain, when you do write out your story, it helps you set them boundaries because you know where you're weak at then. Because you're like, okay, that now I know why I've been doing what I'm doing. So now you can set some guardrails around your life so that when that wrong person comes up, red flag, can't do that. Because the problem is most people don't see the red flag until, because they're blinded at the beginning. So they don't see the red flag until they've already fallen in love. Then, well, I can handle that and all that. But here, you've written out your story. You've seen some of the past relationship you've been in. You've seen how you've been treated when you were a kid. You start to put some things together and piece it together. And you're like, you know what? I don't make good judgments there. I can put a guardrail there. But you would, without writing out your past, you wouldn't realize to do that. And I get flack on that. I get flack on this whole past thing because, again, so many leadership gurus tell you to forget your past and move on. It's the past, leave it there.
I don't agree with that either. I feel that by understanding ourselves better and understanding our pain and what we've had to experience and not take ownership of anybody else's bad behavior, but taking ownership of ourselves, it creates us to be able to make, I feel, a choice in our lives. And so I consider that when you're moving forward or in any direction that you're moving, but it's a movement of choice. And so by understanding yourself further, you're able to make better choices in your life. And so there's totally nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. Well, our time has gone very quickly. So tell us a little bit about how can we connect with you? What's on the path for you that you're doing? Because I know a lot of excitement. And I want to thank you for coming on, having a cold. So, anyone out there listening, he's had a terrible cold and he managed to get through this show. And so I really do appreciate you not canceling and doing the show with me. So tell us about what's in store for you.
Well, of course, we're writing a book, Broken Together. It'll be released sometime in 2019. And you can go to brokentogetherbook.com. And it's not a website itself. You can put your email address in there so that you'll know when we finally release the website itself. And on Facebook, you can go to @InspiredMarriage because that's our ministry, Inspired Marriage. And probably sometime in January, and we might do it sooner, but probably January, Sandy and I are going to start doing podcasts and things like this to where we talk about some of the stuff within marriage, because we know that that's kind of our next step is we need to create something so that people can know who we are and what we believe and how we can help them. So we're going to start a weekly podcast. Not sure what name. It may even be just Inspired Marriage, just like our ministry. I don't know. But eventually we're going to do Inspired Marriage conferences, Inspired Marriage retreats. Everything's going to be geared around the word inspired marriage, because I believe when you look at most marriages, and I'm not talking to ones that are basically over. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking when you look at your average marriage, I truly believe passion is what they're missing. They've been in a rut for so long that they've lost any type of passion. And I believe that if you can find a way to bring that passion back, you'll relive the honeymoon again. It's not easy. My wife and I, we talk 2, 3, 4 hours a day. Now, granted, most people can't do this, but we work together, so it's a little easier. But we talk 2, 3, 4 hours a day on not just crazy stuff, but heavy stuff, deep stuff. We just love to talk. Everything's a learning thing for us. So, we'll see couples, maybe they're fighting in public, and we'll say, "What do you think they're fighting about?" But so that we can, because it gives us how she thinks and how I think. And so that we're getting familiar with how each other think. There'll be times where we're watching a movie and couldn't have done this years ago, but you can do it now. We'd hit pause. If there's like a scene that touches one of us, we'll pause it and we could discuss that for 30 minutes. Who knows? We're not one of these people that you have to do things a certain way. We'll finish the movie. But you know what? If something hits me right now, we need to discuss this. And I'm not talking about hit me in a bad way. I'm talking about hit me in a good way too. And let's discuss it. Everything is a learning. Now, granted, maybe a part of it for us is because we're kind of turning our marriage into a career is the plan. So it is a little different with us. But like one of the things I try to teach people is most people believe in personal development. Not everybody, but most people. I believe if you're married and you spend, let's say, 1 hour on personal development, you should spend 1 hour on marriage development. And here's why. Personal development teaches people how to be happy alone. Marriage development teaches people how to be happy together. Well, if all you listen to is personal development and your spouse listens to personal development, you're actually teaching yourself how to be happy without your spouse. By blending it, by focusing 50%, because you still got to focus on yourself. Now, we probably do 75% marriage growth and 25% personal growth, but it's because of the direction of what we're going. But by marrying personal development with marriage development, that's where I think you can have an overall picture of who each other are in your marriage, because then you're growing personally and you're growing in your marriage. You got to grow in both. But if all you're doing is growing yourself personally, you're going to grow apart. There's just no doubt about that. I've got so many friends.
One, it's like going up and down. One is doing it, maybe the other one isn't, and so you got to become tough together. Yeah, and it's something that you focus on. Yeah, that's very. I mean, that's very smart. That's very true, and so I can definitely see where I think what you're doing is really going to be a great help. And like you said, even if your marriage is not in trouble, it's great to be able to connect with someone like you and your wife, so that if you're wanting to build a relationship together, it helps you to know how to do it, because so often when we're coming out of a relationship loss, we don't really we have our insecurities, we don't really know how to do it, and so we're trying really hard to be able to move forward and build something with somebody. So it's nice
because you got to keep your marriage. Because I remember a couple of years ago when we're talking about going to a marriage conference, I had people tell me, what's wrong with your marriage? Like, no, there's nothing wrong with my marriage. There's a reason for that, because we do all this extra stuff, because it's a lot easier to keep your marriage out of the ditch than it is to get it out of the ditch once it's in. And so we pour everything into our marriage, everything. I mean, I've lost friends because they tried to come in between the marriage, and no, you don't do. My marriage is my first ministry. I don't care who you are. If you're married, marriage is your first ministry. That is God's word. Marriage first. So not saying you don't have a life outside of your spouse, which I don't, but again, it's the way we have chose to live. But again, marriage is your first ministry. You can't do God's work and destroy your marriage. And it's happening everywhere, and it frustrates me. And that's another passion of my life, is I want to see marriages come back together. There is hope. I lost my first marriage. I almost lost this one. Not only did we bring it back together, but we're stronger than we have ever been. We have more passion than we've ever been. We're more excited about the future than we've ever been. And it's all because we finally turned things around and decided to do it God's way.
Oh, that's awesome. That is totally awesome. Well, I know that you can connect with you on Facebook. Chris Benton, just look him up, and you'll be able to connect with him there right on Facebook. And also we're putting up the information there about the Broken Together book. And so I think it's awesome. I think it's great what you're doing. And I'm excited for you, because I can definitely see that now the future is very, very clear. And so it's very exciting when that happens, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to have to close the show. I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight, and I appreciate
it.
Okay. Well, you have listened to Cece with Going Solo, and I think we brought a little bit of that stepping forward into our faith, going solo in our faith. It's so important that we continuously build not only ourselves, and I think, as Chris said, when we get into a relationship, we start focusing on building that too. And so what a wonderful thing that is. I hope you guys will stick around. We're going to close this show. We're going to jump right back into another one. It's Boy and Girl Thing. We have a brand new co-host, and we're going to have a lot of fun with Eric. He's a comedian, so we're going to enjoy that one. So I will catch you in a few minutes. So stick around. We'll be right back with another great show on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is Cece, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.